It's Universal Children's Day, and according to the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, the day is a timely call to action for us to reimagine a better future for every child. How can you do that? No worries. In today's program, we show you how. Just stay right there. We get into the details right after this quick break.
Rethink. Youth. Resilience through entrepreneurship. Training. Hope. Innovation, networking, and knowledge. That's the theme for Youth Month 2020. A host of engaging activities are happening in November, and you don't want to miss out on any of them. They include the 11th sitting of the National Youth Parliament, around-the-table discussions, Youth Entrepreneurship Exposition, Youth Rethink Series, Students Leadership and Governance Installation Ceremony, the Jamaica Union of Tertiary Students Tertiary Conference, the annual general meeting of the National Youth Council of Jamaica, and the Prime Minister's National Youth Awards for Excellence. Youth Month 2020. Rethink. Youth. Resilience through entrepreneurship, training, hope, innovation, networking, and knowledge.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Friday, November 20. The Bank of Jamaica BOJ has been implementing a number of initiatives to ensure stability of the country's financial sector and mitigate the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Governor Richard Biles says the central bank provided $76 billion of liquidity support to the local currency between March and October. This represented 4% of gross domestic product.
These include a special bond buying program, a reduction in the cash reserve requirement, and special bond repurchase facilities.
In addition, more than $1 billion in liquidity support was provided to ensure the continued smooth functioning of the foreign exchange market.
We introduced foreign exchange swaps. We conducted several B-Fix-It intervention sales. We directly sold foreign exchange to major players in the energy sector. We reduced the foreign currency cash reserve requirement, and we provided US dollar bond repurchase facilities to those who required it.
Mr. Biles was speaking at the BOJ's quarterly press briefing yesterday. He said that the bank also offered US dollar indexed bonds to investors seeking a hedge against exchange rate movements. According to Governor Biles, the central bank's combined liquidity support in Jamaican and US dollars is substantial and unprecedented and equivalent to more than 11% of GDP. Government has so far set aside $2.3 billion to start addressing the $5.4 billion of damage done to the island's roads during recent weather events. $1.3 million has been allocated to clear and repair 206 corridors. The rest has been distributed among members of Parliament to address constituency roads and drains. On Tuesday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness informed Parliament that the National Works Agency had cleared all but 4 corridors across the island. Among them, Thompson Town to Victoria Road in Clarendon, which will have to be reconstructed. Meanwhile, an alternative route for the Gordon Town Road breakaway is 3 weeks away from being opened, and engineering solutions to control rivers in St. Andrew and St. Thomas are being finalized. As he gave the update on road conditions, the Prime Minister again stressed the need for a more uniformed approach to land settlements across the island.
Our settlement policy has to be far more aligned to our budget, to our ability to maintain our infrastructure.
28 top-performing students in the 2020 Primary Exit Profile, PEP, have received educational grants from the Universal Service Fund, USF, to cover their secondary school expenses. A boy and a girl from each parish were awarded $40,000 in a ceremony on Tuesday. Additionally, the USF's Program of Advancement through Health and Education, PATH Scholarship, was awarded to Chantel Williams to cover her tertiary studies in Information and Communications Technology at Church Teachers College. Minister of Science, Energy and Technology Darrell Vaz congratulated the recipients and encouraged them to set goals for themselves and to never be afraid of failure, which he said was what fueled success.
Your work has proven that you are capable and you have the potential and the ability to change not just your life, but also to help transform this nation. I urge you to use these scholarships as a launching pad to pursue your dreams and advance the welfare of this country.
Minister Vaz lauded the USF on the work it had been doing, added that he was heartened by initiatives that invest in the education of the nation's children. The National Solid Waste Management Authority, NSWMA, is putting measures in place to ensure that the nation is clean and garbage-free during the upcoming Christmas period. NSWMA's Executive Director Audley Gordon says based on research during previous Yuletide seasons, a strategy is being implemented to cover areas which usually pose a challenge.
We have already started to look at our extended opening hours at the disposal site. We start looking at where we can add additional trips. We know the areas that usually give us the challenges. The market districts, for example.
Mr. Gordon made the statements on Wednesday at the launch of the authority's Drum at the Gate initiative. 80 garbage drums were distributed to residents of Greenvale in Manchester under the project, which is being executed island-wide. Mr. Gordon says the Drum at the Gate project is necessary to improve a number of factors, such as the turnaround time for the collection of solid waste.
The stress that it put on our crew when they have to come and clean up instead of just taking up a drum, emptying it and moving. We want to move from your gate as quickly as possible.
The drums were donated by the Grace Kennedy Group and EdgeChem. Jamaicans working in the merchant shipping industry will soon see improved conditions after the House of Representatives passed the Shipping Amendment Act earlier this week. Transport Minister Robert Montague says it aims to make more complete provisions for the living and working conditions and the rights of seafarers in line with the Maritime Labour Convention of 2006.
This progressive and groundbreaking legislation needs no debating in my estimation. It is a necessity, especially given the realities that we are currently facing in light of the presence of the coronavirus. This piece of legislation will enable Jamaica as an active member of the international community and a leader in the maritime industry to meet and honor our obligations under the Maritime Convention and give effect to our decision so to do.
Minister Montague says the bill provides for a change in the minimum working age for seafarers working on board ships from 16 to 18 years. It also covers the provision of free water for workers and making ship owners liable for medical care, burial expenses, and the health protection of all seafarers working on board ships. The bill also introduces requirements for Jamaican ships of 500 gross tonnage or over to have a current maritime labor certificate and a declaration of maritime labor compliance. And finally, Agriculture Minister Floyd Green has announced that a new board of the Sugar Industry Authority (SIA) is expected to be appointed before the month end. According to Minister Green, the role of the authority in the new phase of sugar will be the utilization of more science and technology to propel the sugar industry forward. The strategy being proposed by the government is the enlisting of new entrepreneurs with innovative ideas who will be able to resurrect the sector and diversify the production of products that can be obtained from sugarcane. The Agriculture Minister says government stands ready to facilitate a private sector-led industry which can stand on its own without government intervention. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Universal Children's Day is celebrated annually on November 20 to promote international togetherness and the improvement of children's welfare. One way of doing this is by safeguarding our children from all forms of abuse. In our next feature, we dissect the old adage, spare the rod and spoil the child, and for good reason. Watch this.
A lot of us grew up on the scripture, spare the rod and spoil the child. So if you speak to a lot of Jamaicans, we will probably tell you that corporal punishment is just a way of life. It's a rites of passage. It is something we're accustomed to. And what doesn't kill you makes you. Now I stand here extremely lucky and extremely blessed So I've been raised in a family with my grandmother and my mother. And my grandmother believed in the power of reasoning, the power of communicating, the power of understanding and working out differences. So I never experienced corporal punishment. And now that I stand as a mother of a rambunctious 7-year-old who I swear is going on 70, I implement the same things that my grandmother taught me. So I reason with her. I talk it out. Do you think that makes sense? But there are people who will tell you this doesn't work if you are a frustrated single parent. And this may not work if you come from an inner city. But we're here to have that conversation. Welcome to the Office of the Children's Advocates Dinner and Conversation series.
The Office of the Children's Advocate, in association with UNICEF Jamaica, has successfully hosted its third OCA Dinner and Conversation series at the Terra Nova Hotel in Kingston.
What is this Dinner and Conversations all about? So, of course, the Office of the Children's Advocate, as most of you know, is the Commission of Parliament that is charged with the responsibility to safeguard the rights and promote the best interests of children in Jamaica in all settings. One of the things that I think is very important to do is to see how we can have facilitated discussions and get actions through very different means. How can we have stakeholders who may never ever really be in the same room at the same time gather together, fellowship over a meal, get some information based on whatever research is out there or information on a particular topic that's relevant to our children, and then give their input based on what their experiences are in their various communities and their organizations.
This year's staging of the event saw numerous stakeholders rising to the podium to share important facts on the topic and to impart valuable recommendations.
At UNICEF, we believe there is nothing more important or valuable than to protect and safeguard every child. And that means protecting every child from violence, be it sexual, emotional, psychological, or physical. We are particularly disturbed by the most common forms of violence experienced by Jamaican children, which is violent discipline. 8 out of 10 Jamaican children under age 15 are subjected to violent discipline at home. The term violent discipline includes physical aggression, like hitting or beating, as well as psychological aggression, like shouting or humiliating or calling names.
We want all our stakeholders, our teachers, our teaching associations, the clergy, the society, the private sector. We want all our partners. We want every single citizen to say enough is enough. Let us find better ways to reach out to our children. Whether we're going to give them time out, take away their privileges, whether we're going to speak to them about the consequences of their actions. And we must also always reward good behavior. Let them know that, yes, this is good. Praise them, acknowledge them. I'm proud of you. I love you. You did good. That is the correct way to do it. Let us employ these new strategies. And I promise you, it will be a new dawn in a more peaceful and loving Jamaica.
The bulk of information was presented by lead discussant for the event, Professor Joan Durant, a child clinical psychologist and professor of community health services at the University of Manitoba in Canada.
I thought we should start by figuring out just what corporal punishment is and getting a definition, because we all have different pictures in our minds of what this means. Basically, simply put, it's the administration of punishment to a child's body, and the intent is to cause pain or discomfort. What do parents really want to accomplish? What do they think they're doing when they're hitting their children? Well, one of the major goals that parents have is to teach their children right from wrong. So they want to raise children who treat other people fairly, who are kind and empathic. Usually, right, we don't want our children to be violent. We want them to be kind and good people. We want them to be able to resist temptation, and we want them to be able to make the right decision when we're not there. Out of all the 13 studies that have been conducted on this, all of them showed that children who are hit have weaker, poorer relationships with their parents. And what this means is lower levels of trust, higher levels of avoidance. Even the little slaps that nobody thinks anything of when they're toddlers, don't touch that, has a profound effect. Those children start backing away from their parents and they stop exploring their environment. That impairs their cognitive development, and even more importantly, it impairs the relationship, the trust, the attachment. Because of all of this, countries are increasingly recognizing that corporal punishment is a serious public health issue. It's creating real problems in our societies. The level of violence here is correlated with the level of violence in homes, and it is all over the world. When you look at the relationship between the level of corporal punishment and dating violence across countries, really strong correlation. The relationship between corporal punishment and murder, high correlation. It's just simply a training ground. And so what skills do we want them to have? The skills to coerce, control, and hurt, or the skills to solve problems, to resolve conflicts, and to reason?
Informing.
Jamaica today confirmed its first imported case of coronavirus.
Educating.
If you follow the recommended procedures, it is highly likely that you will not get the disease.
Going beyond to keep you informed and connected.
Welcome to Get the Facts.
Even through the pandemic. Helping you stay safe while we protect ourselves. Dependable. Impactful. Accurate.
This is your JIS News.
Credible. Trustworthy. Every day, everywhere. Serving our customers proudly.
Due to COVID-19, so much has changed about the way we go about our daily lives. Mask wearing, for one, has become the new normal for all persons, including our little ones. To protect them, we shed light on the steps they need to take when wearing masks.
Face masks come in various shapes, colors, and forms, each with a distinct feature, but all with the same purpose: to protect. As a result of the COVID-19 outbreak, all persons in public spaces are now required to wear masks. These include our restaurants, churches, supermarkets, and schools. All students returning to the classroom in the new academic year are expected to wear masks. But how prepared are they? Are they aware of the proper protocols for wearing masks and how important it is for them to wear masks correctly? Joining me to answer these questions and more is Mr. Keith Foga from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Thanks for coming, Ms. Foga.
Thank you for having me.
Ms. Foga, before we get into the protocols of wearing masks, let's establish the importance of mask wearing. Why is it so important?
So masks are important in the whole prevention of coronavirus, or COVID-19 as we call it. And this is because COVID-19 is spread through droplets that come from an infected person if they cough, if they sneeze, even if they talk or laugh sometimes. The droplets that can come from it is how it spreads. So if it passes on to someone, touches you, or you touch a surface and it goes into your eyes, your nose, your mouth. So the aim is that the mask is a protective barrier. So if I have it on and I cough, I sneeze, then the droplets are limited from going anywhere. It's kept inside, and the same if the other person is wearing the mask, so there's double protection on either side.
Thanks, Ms. Foga, for establishing the importance. But as we all know, there are different types of masks. Are all of them effective?
All right, so we have medical masks, and those have been tested and tried and proven. However, medical masks, we usually ask at Ministry of Health to allow the healthcare workers to wear those, because as you would imagine, their exposure is far greater than the average person. What we have found is the fabric mask also forms a protective barrier. Might not have gone through as much testing as the others, but it does form a protective barrier as long as you are using at least 2 to 3 layers of cloth. You want it to be washable, of course, so you can reuse them. You want it to be breathable, so material like cotton that is used for that is quite important in it. One of the things I want to mention as you ask about, the safety with the mask is the fact that there are some stylish masks that have valves on it, and we have to be careful with that. Those valves can protect the wearer, because as you breathe in, it closes. However, when you breathe out, it's unfiltered air that is going out, and so it protects the wearer, but it does not protect others around. So it's not a recommended mask to be used.
Thanks, Ms. Foga. So let's get into the protocols now. How is it that persons are supposed to wear masks?
Okay. So the first thing is that the mask should be clean. So we want to ensure that we're using a clean mask. We want to ensure that persons wash their hands where they're at somewhere accessible to soap and water. If not, use a hand sanitizer before putting on the mask. So I'm putting a little sanitizer in my hand, and I think it's important to show, because persons think that you just rub and that's it, but you're actually doing it even as you would do your hands, washing your hands, because you want to ensure that the entire surface of the hands have been cleaned. The next thing we do is go to the loops, and then you're putting it on your face. So you want to ensure that every area is filled. So you put it over the nose and the mouth, and you put it around the loops of your ears. Now sometimes the top may feel like it needs to be up a little bit, or the thing, you can tighten that, and that's how you would do it. In taking it off, you again do your wiping with your hand sanitizer or washing. Again, go from the loops, not from the middle. Go from the loops, take it off, and usually when you take it off now, if it's just for a temporary moment, you can put it on a paper towel. We encourage persons to also, they can use a little bag as like a sandwich bag and have it in there, and then take it out when necessary. Of course, at the end of the day, you're going to be putting it in some soapy water to wash it, because you want to wash your mask every day.
So Ms. Foga, even though most students are required to wear masks, we know there are a handful of students who are exempted. Can you tell us why?
So in terms of wearing masks, children who are 2 years old and under are not required to wear masks. And this is because their lungs are not fully developed, and we say you don't need to have the mask on them. Of course, you're going to ensure that they're not around a lot of persons and keep that distance, but we don't put masks on them.
Okay, Ms. Foga, so some of the students who are required to wear masks may find it uncomfortable to do for prolonged periods. What do you have to say about this?
Masks are some things that you have to practice wearing, for periods of time, even as students are at home. They should be, just practicing wearing it for different periods of time. Now, we have worked with the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, and it is understood that if they're in a classroom where the distance is 6 feet between, the desks, that they are allowed to take off their masks. If it is a shorter distance, they have to wear it. Now, there will come a time, as you're saying, that you want to take it off. What I would suggest is that they be at a distance, because usually in the school after a certain time you go outside, whether it's a change of class or a break time. At that time, you just distance yourself a little bit, take it off for a few seconds, a minute or two, and then put it on back, and they're good to go again until another break is taken.
With that said, do you have any advice for parents and guardians who are sending their children back to school in this new normal?
You would be already recognizing what they are comfortable with that protects them. And so you start that practice, and then it's just encouraging them, give them an extra mask when they go, because as mentioned, when it gets wet, when it gets dirty, which will happen at school from time to time, you want them to have something else that they can put on, so they're constantly protected. And just the change also is something that can affect you mentally and emotionally, so you really just want to explain and understand the change. I think when the children understand why it is they're doing it, that is protecting themselves, it's protecting their friends, it's protecting their family when they come home. As they understand that and as they get used to it, I believe it is something that we will see them wearing it and having less complaints about it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fuga, for sharing all of that useful information with us today. I'm sure our parents and guardians are now more equipped and informed to send their children safely to school this academic year. With that said, I hope you think about what you've learned today and you do what you can to master the art of mask wearing. All the best.
According to UNICEF, governments across the world need to adopt a 6-point plan in order to protect all children. These points are as follows. Ensure all children learn, including by closing the digital divide. Guarantee access to health and nutrition services and make vaccines affordable and available to every child. Support and protect the mental health of children and young people and bring an end to abuse, gender-based violence, and neglect in childhood. Increase access to clean water, sanitation, and hygiene, and address environmental degradation and climate change. Reverse the rise in children poverty and ensure an inclusive recovery for all. Redouble efforts to protect and support children and their families living through conflict, disaster, and displacement. I know you will agree with me that if we make a concerted effort to achieve these 6 goals, then we will undoubtedly be helping to make Jamaica and the world a better place for all children to live and eventually work, raise their families, and do business.
Hurricanes can strike at any time. In the event of one, be prepared to act quickly. If a hurricane watch or warning has been issued, review your home disaster response plan. Map out likely routes to evacuate if your home is at risk and confirm with relatives or friends you plan to stay with. Also, confirm the location of the nearest shelter. Check your emergency supplies and restock if necessary. Remember, disasters do happen, so be prepared.
Unfortunately, we have come to the end of today's Youthful Jamaica magazine, but remember you can re-watch our show on our website, jis.gov.jm, and at the JIS YouTube channel. You may also send us a tweet at JIS News or email us at jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm with your feedback, comments, and questions. I'm Adrian Atkinson reminding you to safeguard our children today.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.